Okay, so today's word of the day is going to be about positioning, missed opportunities, and why you need to be in a specific spot for God to be able to make the impact that He is trying to do in your life. So this is kind of a part two in a sense, or the concept of this word has been sparked from a previous word that I did about a fresh start. It was about destiny, and I highly encourage you to listen to that before this video. So if you are catching this on YouTube, I'll put that in the description box below. I think that this also may end up being a podcast episode, so as I am guided to record it as an audio too. So if you are listening to this podcast, I'll put the YouTube video in the description notes, in the show notes. But right after I finished recording this video, and mind you, this whole video was about your fresh start. It was about needing to be in a specific position for God to be able to make the impact that God is trying to have on your life. Right as I finished that video, quite literally ended the recording, I saw the coach bus that I needed to get back into a city I was at, kind of like a stone rock-esque place in Ireland, and it was really far out of Dublin. So I need to get back into Dublin because I actually had a flight to take, and I could not miss the bus. If I missed the bus, I would miss the flight because it's like an hour in between buses just because it is so far out in the middle of nowhere. And I was there pretty early. Like, I was positioning myself to get at this bus stop about 12 minutes before the bus was going to come. So in my head, I was like, okay, that's good. I kind of wanted to be there 20 minutes early, but this was the timing of it all. As soon as I stopped that video, I had watched the bus go right in front of my face. Like, I had just gotten to the road. I had stopped recording the video, actually, because I had missed the bus. And something in me did say, like, to keep recording that video, but I didn't because it was such a loud road. So I ended up missing that bus, and it ended up coming, it was like 14 minutes early, and I felt like that was such a significant experience to have right after I was recording about how God needs you positioned at specific places at specific times in order to gift you opportunities, and if you don't trust your intuition, then you'll miss them. And I was guided to like exit the gate of this rock circle thing. It wasn't a rock circle, but that's the best way to describe it for E, is at exactly 8:10, and I don't think I left it until maybe like 8:15. And that was a really like clear message about how like you need to be positioned at the right time, because in that case everything worked out. I was able to get a taxi, thankfully. I didn't know that there would be taxis nearby, so that it all worked out in the end, and I made my flight. But at the same time, that was just a really clear message about ensuring that you are exactly where God wants you to be at the exact specific time. And so we're going to get into a little bit more about God's timing and positioning today, because I feel like it's so significant. One thing that I have experienced so much upon my journey is God's timing and God asking me to be in a specific place at a specific time. And I find that a lot of people struggle with that. And I would say I'm not perfect at it now. I used to be a lot better at it. But timing is truly like a test of obedience. So the reason that God might be like, you need to go here at 5 p.m. or you need to go to, it could even be like this, I travel often, so maybe it's like, no, you need to change and be at this hotel room. Or, for example, I was staying at an Airbnb last night and God was like, don't stay here, double book, go to a hotel. So there's so many reasons behind why God might say you're not positioned properly, or you need to be here at this specific time, or make this shift in order to be in alignment or positioned properly. The reason for that is God is moving things in your physical reality. God is encouraging other people who have faith, or even those who don't have faith that don't really understand what's going on. God is moving through these people to be able to push forth the mission that He has for your life. And so, for example, I don't know why this is coming up as and this is like such a small thing, so this isn't that significant, but I do feel for some reason God keeps like giving me the vision of this throughout this video, so I'm trusting that this needs to be like, I guess it isn't about me, I guess it's about her. So last night I had trusted God's guidance. Don't stay at that Airbnb, go to a hotel. So I'd moved, and God said, there's people that you need to meet at this hotel. There's 2 specific people. And one experience I had was, I think I was coming up, I had gotten like my food order or went for a walk. It was something late in the evening. And I'd come up in the elevator and I'd gotten off of my floor, and this other woman had then walked into the elevator. And I'm not one to like always outwardly compliment people, but in some cases God will be like, compliment this person, or in this case it just came out because I genuinely was like, oh my gosh, this girl is so gorgeous and she was so done up, and she just looked good, and I was like, I need to make sure somebody tells her how good she looks in case nobody else does. And so I complimented her, and you could just tell by like, when you compliment somebody that maybe doesn't get complimented that often or isn't used to people pointing out that they look good, that was definitely like the face that she gave me back. Like, she was extremely grateful. And that is just one small, like, once again, these are very small testimonies. These are not big things. These are very small things. But you don't know how that one compliment might have then impacted the rest of her evening. Like, that could have made her go into the evening feeling more confident, feeling more worthy, make better decisions with herself, etc. And so for some reason, God is like really showing me like that is a part of positioning, that is a part of timing, because it's like, oh, I wouldn't have passed this girl if I didn't have that, or if I didn't ask specifically to be on a high floor like God encouraged me to do when I checked in, or to go out for a walk or to get food. Because I think it was when I got a second, no, I think it was before that. So it was when I went out to go for a walk. God was like, as soon as you check in, go for a walk. As soon as you check in, go for a walk. And that's what happened in that situation. So God might be using you to impact other people. God might be using your positioning to do something for somebody else, or God might use your positioning to be able to receive something for you. So for example, I was able to do something or fulfill kind of like a God's promise that God had encouraged me to do many, many years back this morning, because I was actually positioned at this hotel, which I wouldn't have thought to think to research if this specific thing that God had told me to do years back was actually in this city that I'm in. If I was at this other Airbnb, because I would have been so far away from the city center that I wouldn't have thought, oh, I remember God had asked me to do this years back, and I'm finally somewhere that this is related to a store. I was like, this store might be in this country, in this city, let me see. And I wouldn't have thought of that if I was in the other place. And so these are really small testimonies. Like, I recognize that these aren't these big things, but the thing with God is it's not always the big things, it's also the small things that add up and add up and add up and add up. So if you can recognize the little small reasons behind God's timing and God's positioning, then you can understand why in a grand scheme of things your positioning and timing really matters, because this can also link to big things, opportunities, miracles, situations. Like I remember, and this is one of like a big testimony that I don't think I really shared in full anywhere yet, but I know that God really wants me to. So I travel full time, and years and years and years back, kind of not right at the start, but I had run a new age business and then came to God and then stopped that business, which also meant stopping traveling and going back and living at home. And when I did get to start traveling again, the new business that I created, it wasn't successful. It was successful enough for me to be able to move to where the general region that God encouraged me to go to, and then have just like a couple of $100. And then I had to just trust that I was going to be able to sell in my business. And I had gotten to a point where I had like $20 left. And with that $20, God did not say, keep it, buy food, or the hotel that I was staying at was actually only, really looking back, I'm like, I don't know how a hotel was $20, but I guess it was like an obscure island in the middle of nowhere. So that's why. But that hotel was $20. So I was like, shouldn't I save this for like the next day? And God was like, you need to go use this to get on this excursion where you hike a volcano and jump in the water. And it was like swimming in hot springs, although they were not hot, it was the winter. And had I ignored that, who knows what would have happened. But I spent that last $20 to do that tour, because that's what God said to do. And like I said, I used to be a lot better at obedience with God. I feel like I'm less than I was then, and I will admit that, because I also don't want anybody to think that I am like perfect, but I also like I want to be able to show the dichotomy of like being really good at being obedient and then not being really good at being obedient, and then like the weight and the cost of not being that obedient, or struggling with it, to showcase or display that it's like a common thing for people to experience on this faith-based journey. Like, it's not easy to be obedient. It's important to be, but I also don't want to give this like picture perfect. I'll be honest on where I am on my own journey, so you can also feel less like you need to be perfect, but also understand like, okay, like this is like a real thing. People do struggle with obedience. But regardless of this journey, the positioning of that was perfect, because then on this boat, and I don't really know why this woman gave me money, but she, for whatever reason, was like absolutely amazed that there's nobody else except for one guy who jumped off the boat into the hot springs, which were cold. Everybody's wearing coats. For context, it was winter. And for whatever reason, this woman, after we get off, I was in Greece, for context, because this is only going to make sense if you understand. You can either walk up these like 800 or 1,000 or something like that steps, or take a gondola. And listen, I knew that my card was going to decline on that gondola because I did not have $6 left. And God was like, go on the gondola. And I was like, this is going to be embarrassing. God, my card's going to decline. You know I don't have money in that bank. I just spent my last $20. I don't have anything at all in my bank account right now. God was like, take the gondola. So I go to take the gondola and I go to pay. I'm like, is God just like going to miraculously make my card work? Obviously the card declined, and then the woman behind me was like, oh my gosh, like, I'll pay for you, let me pay for you. And then she's like, come in the gondola with me. It was like this woman and her daughter. And then she was like, you're so brave for like jumping in the water. Like, I could never do something like that. Like, she just kept going on and on and on about how brave I was for jumping in the water. And then she randomly handed me, I think it was about $40. I didn't tell her anything about money either. I don't know if it's like she assumed because my card declined or what was up, but she still just randomly gave me $40. It's kind of crazy to think about. This was a very long time ago, but I'm like, whoa, God literally knew that that woman was going to be on that boat, that I would jump in the water, and that she would end up giving me that money. So then God told me to take, do you see how God knows this and sees this? So then God is like, do this. And that's why you have to be obedient, and that's why obedience needs to be done without sight, without knowing. Because if you listen, then God can do what he's trying to do. That is a miracle. That is outside of the logical context. And so if you're finding that life doesn't have those miracles, or those things aren't happening, ask yourself, where are you not being obedient to God? Where are you not listening? Because God is trying to orchestrate these things all the time. But if you're not in position, then you cannot receive them. Okay? It's such an important lesson. And I'll also share, just so you understand the end of the story, I ended up having a very successful evening in sales on my business, and then ended the day with over like $2,500. So that is how that all went, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't have the stability of having that $40, knowing, okay, I have 2 more nights. So behind the scenes of kind of where I've been. That was back in like 2022, so that was like 4 years ago. So I hope that you enjoyed this word about obedience, and about I'm hearing like standing the test of time, even though that didn't have to do too much to it. But this is why being positioned where God needs you to be is so incredibly important. So I'm sending you so much love. I hope that you enjoyed listening to this video. If you are watching on YouTube, if you want to continue to receive these videos, make sure you are subscribed. If you have any like video topics outside of just like word of the days that you want, any struggles that you're having with your faith, or questions that you have, feel free to put them in the comments, and I can make videos based on what you recommend. If you feel called to sow into or donate into my YouTube channel, so I have more time, energy, and capacity to make more of these videos, or if this supported you in any way, the link for the donation box will be in the description. I also have a book called Daughter of God. It is a devotional to help you increase and strengthen your faith in God, so I will put that in the description box below. I'm sending you so much love, and I hope to see you in the next video.